Welcome to the Whitehall Wire. I'm your host, Megan Meyer. Spring is officially upon us, which means the May 3rd primary election is just around the corner. If you haven't heard, Whitehall City Council recently voted to place a local issue on the May 3rd ballot. Issue 10 is a 2.822 mil property tax levy, which, if approved, would fund the renovation and expansion of the police station, the addition of 6 new officers, technology upgrades, and other enhancements to help reduce response times in Whitehall. If approved, the average Whitehall homeowner would see about 27 cents a day, or about 20 cents a day for seniors with a homestead exemption and increased property taxes. To learn about what your exact property tax increase would be if the levy is approved, visit the Franklin County Auditor's website for a tax calculator. With so much to consider, I've invited Chief of Police Mike Crispen to do an interview with me to learn more about Issue 10. After the interview, we'll go through some upcoming City Council agenda items and upcoming events. All this and more on this episode of the Whitehall Wire. Chief Crispen, thanks for joining me today to talk about the Safer Whitehall initiative and Issue 10, the proposed levy to fund your ongoing efforts to build up safety in Whitehall. Since joining the City of Whitehall as Chief of Police in 2016, you implemented a strategic plan known as the Safer Whitehall initiative. Can you talk to the viewers today about some of the successes you saw in the first strategic plan?
Yeah, so thanks, Megan, for the invitation. When we first put this together, we were really kind of surprised at the success we ended up having. It was more of a success than we expected. But I will tell you, one of the biggest successes we recognized out of this was mostly the perceptions the community shared with us, how they felt safer, right? We heard that often. And additionally was because of the increase in businesses that came in and property values going up. So you can't downplay those as much as you look at statistics. Of course, we saw a nearly 30% reduction in violent crime. You saw robberies, burglaries hit 20-year lows, and so certainly we saw those first 3 years very successful.
But I know that the pandemic, it's had its own effect on crime, and it's not just in Whitehall, it's throughout the country. We're seeing different kind of crime trends advance. So how have you pivoted with the department to ensure that, we're keeping Whitehall safe?
Certainly the pandemic brought with it a whole new set of things that law enforcement had to deal with. You had to deal with medical things. That was never anything that we've ever had to deal with in the past other than, crashes and things of that nature. So we had to learn to partner with other agencies who were better in that, such as our own fire department, who are fabulous with that type of pandemic issues, right? And we also had to work closely with the Department of Health and learn what they suggested that we do as law enforcement officers. And of course, there was things like an increase in domestic violence because people were home. And so we had to learn different ways to interact with people without interacting with people, without going into their houses and stuff. And so it was a challenge, but I think we've done fairly well with that.
Absolutely. And I know part of your success has stemmed from the fact that you have had an increase in force recently. Since 2016, you've been able to hire 6 additional officers. And if the levy is approved, you'd be able to hire another 6 additional officers. So what could residents expect to see if we had that increase in force?
Sure. One of the challenges we've had to deal with is what I call the humanitarian crimes, right? Those are things like human trafficking, family, domestic violence, identity fraud, elderly fraud, things of that nature, where we typically just take a report once it's happened to them. This would allow us an opportunity to be more proactive in that arena. Additionally, our second shift has officers, as soon as they come on shift, they're almost instantly on a call, and they stay on calls the entire shift. So by having an additional 6 officers that allow the citizens to see more police out doing proactive, preventative measures.
Absolutely. So am I correct in saying that the additional 6 officers would be funded in part by the levy proceeds, funded in part by U.S. Department of Justice COPS grants, but also by existing city budget dollars? Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, the grant we got will reimburse the city 2/3 the first year, half the second year, a third the third year, and on the 4th year on for the rest of their career, the city would have to fully fund that. That would come with budget
moving forward. Okay,
That's
absolutely. So I know another part of the potential levy would support the renovation and expansion of the police station on South Yearling Road. What would that look like?
Well, you'll see a building to the right of it if you're facing it. It'll be a two-story building. And what that ends up bringing for us is an improvement in records management. It'll also improve for a real state-of-the-art dispatch center so that we have quicker response times to the citizens. It'll also improve training facility, provide a place for the officers to do reports. We have 54 officers and 2 computers for them to use. And so they have to share those inside the building. That'll help in that space, right? It'll help us in improving our evidence room, because currently right now we're full to the point to where we have to get connexes on the outside to put evidence in it.
And, you know, there is a population boom going on in Central Ohio. Am I correct in that this would future-proof the police station for some growth in the community?
Absolutely. Our plans for this is a 30-year plan, so it's not just for what we may be dealing with today and what we need today, but what are we going to need potentially in 30 years from now. So the shell of the thing will allow the internals to grow with society needs.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you, Chief Crispen, and thank you to our men and women in blue for your efforts to build up safety in Whitehall. To learn more about Issue 10, please join Chief Crispen and some of his deputies for an upcoming Safer Whitehall Town Hall. The dates and registration information for those can be found on the city's website.
One of the coolest parts of my life is learning from Bob McGilligan, getting, especially with commentary, getting to learn the little ins and outs and getting to commentate games with him. It was just some of the coolest experiences of my life.
Broadcasting the ASWA shows gave me the opportunity to experience what it's like and gave me the confidence to start my own business and basically do it myself.
I would say some of my favorite moments in Emphasis were the basketball tournament games. They're just such a different environment to high school basketball, especially in the tournament. You know, you're always playing for love of the game, but you love it a little bit more.
My experience in the Sports Emphasis program was something that was essential to me. We got to do in a live broadcast. We've done it all. We did football, basketball, baseball, and from anything from commentary to behind the scenes to just running the scoreboard. We just did it all. Any kind of value in production you could possibly have, we did it, and that was just so essential to where I'm at now.
Welcome back to Council Corner. I covered these first 2 issues on our last episode of the Whitehall Wire, but in case you missed it, on April 5th, City Council will consider a resolution designating various parcels of land on the Broad Street and Hamilton Road intersection as public right-of-way. This is in preparation for a major intersection improvement being funded in large part by ODOT. Also on April 5th, City Council will consider an ordinance amending the process for tracking gas usage for city vehicles, considering it is now an automated process. New this time, City Council is also considering an ordinance which would allow garbage and recycling containers to be stored on the side of your property as opposed to only in the rear or in garages. This code change would be in line with the new standardized garbage and recycling carts issued to residents in 2021. Moving to upcoming events and announcements, the Whitehall Parks and Recreation continues to host their Whitehall Wellness Weekends at the Community Park YMCA. Sign up on the city's website to enjoy free fitness, cooking, and art-inspired classes. Also look out on the city's website for the 2021 City of Whitehall Annual Report. And if you'd like a copy, come pick one up at City Hall. Finally, you can expect to see your 2022 Opportunity Guide hitting mailboxes shortly. Thanks for joining me today on this episode of the Whitehall Wire.